My name's Tom Weaver. I am the vocalist of the post-hardcore band Casey from South Wales in the UK. And I'm here today to talk about fuck money attitude. I'm so glad that I said that right first time. The topic I've been giving is a discussion about why creativity enriches my life. I've been a musician for, I guess, 12 years. I was never very musical as a kid. Although I grew up in a very music-orientated household, both my parents loved a wide variety of music, and I was always kind of surrounded by people who played music but never kind of indulged in it myself through like kindergarten and primary school, or even kind of going into high school. It wasn't until me and a few of my friends all decided at the same time, we had a bit of a change of direction in our musical tastes. A new kid came into our high school and introduced us to, what was the first band? I think it was the Used self-titled record that he just burned onto a CD for us, and he brought it into school and kind of gave us each a copy and said, you should go home and listen to this. And I took it home and I was like, what the fuck is this? And I kind of just turned it off straight away, because at the time I was listening to a lot of Nickelback and Eminem, and kind of quite diverse in my own way, but at the same time very cliche, very mainstream diverse rather than actually diverse. And I put the Used record on, there was a ton of screaming in it and kind of distorted guitars and just a bit all over the place, and I was thinking, no, it's not for me. Put it down. And then it must have been a few months later that he gave me another CD, which was Feeling for a Friend, Casually Dressed in Deep in Conversation. And it was a bit, I don't want to say softer because it still has the same elements in it, but in a bit more of a varied proportion, I guess. And that was what really brought, and then I found out they were from Wales, and that really broke me into it. And then me, Liam, who's also in Casey, and a bunch of other friends from our high school all decided about the same time, like, we're going to start a band. So I have terrible hand-eye coordination. So I was like, oh, I can't do anything, so I'll sing. I can't sing either, but you know, it's cheaper than owning a guitar. But yeah, we all got a bunch of instruments and we started just jamming covers, because we were too I don't say uneducated, but I guess that's the only real word, to write our own music. But even just like kind of trying to reproduce other people's music definitely brought us a lot closer together. There's they're called youth clubs in the UK, I guess Your House, is it here? That they were so accommodating to what we were doing. We thought it was great. They built us a kind of makeshift practice room so that we could take all of our gear there and just kind of store it safely. And they would let us practice kind of when the youth club was open. So a bunch of us, not even a band worth of us, like a load of us, would just go down, we'd take it in turns and we'd just jam things out. And to start with, we just did clean vocal stuff, because I mean, I listened to Matt Davis and Burt McCracken, and by that point I was listening to Aiden and Silverstein and some other really early Victory Records stuff. And I say not early Victory Records, because that's very like Strife and different kinds of hardcore, but early post-hardcore that was coming through Victory Records at the time, even as far as kind of like Darkest Hour and a couple of other bands like that. But I just didn't want to. To me, I just thought, that's just going to hurt. I'm not going to bother doing that. It's a terrible idea. I'm just going to hurt myself. So I was just trying to sing, and we were covering things like Fall Out Boy and what other bands did we do? Jesus. Just other similar. I mean, I think we did a Feeling for a Friend song, but we just kind of cut the screaming out of it. I just did the singing parts. And the first song I ever actually screamed to was Aiden, The Last Sunrise, when I was 13, which is, I'm ashamed to say now, but at the time it was cool. But yeah, it was just, that was really the first point where I'd felt so engrossed in a piece of music. Again, I can't believe I'm talking about Aiden in this way, but but it was the first time that kind of it really took me with it, and it got to there's a screaming part at the very end of it, and I just went with it, and I left the youth club and I was spitting blood. And I lost my voice for a few days, and then straight afterwards I was like, I'm going to keep doing that until I've got it, because it was such a euphoric, like cathartic experience to get that rush of energy out. And like straight after which everyone's like, oh, that was great, yeah, keep doing that. And I was like, I can't keep doing that, I've lost my voice, it really hurts. But that was kind of my very first introduction into post-hardcore, but personally expressing myself through post-hardcore. And then from there, flash forward a couple of months, I guess, we began to write our own songs, and they were all terrible. What was the band called? It was me and Liam from KC, and 3 of our friends formed a band. I think we were called Choked by Roses, possibly. Something very, very emo, screamo, post-hardcore for the time, anyway. And yeah, we started trying to write our own music, and it was awful, and I was no idea how to express myself. I was always really, really terrible at English through high school. And it was only when a few of my teachers kind of pointed out to my parents that I was really substandard for my age, that kind of my parents sat me down and said, because I was a bright kid, I was great at maths and IT and science and other bits and pieces, I was great. But English I was awful at, but the only thing that I ever found myself enjoying in English lessons was creative writing, where I could kind of just let my head wander, and it would be terribly punctuated, the grammar would be all over the place, spelling, syntax, it was horrific. But it was what I enjoyed doing. I enjoyed just making stories up. And then, obviously, with the emergence of my interest in music and starting a band and starting to write songs, it kind of gave the two elements an opportunity to combine and flourish together. So, I mean, I still have like notebooks and stuff with my really early songs in, and they're awful, really, truly awful. But I mean, everyone's got to start somewhere, I guess. And it carried on, and then we made a band together called Save the Last, which was just like a Day to Remember rip-off band, basically. Just kind of, we call ourselves partycore, as every band of that age did. But you know, and kind of my songwriting got a little bit better, and kind of every one we did was really a progression, and kind of my storytelling got a lot better. I've always had a great difficulty in summarizing information. I can never write kind of four-word lines in a song. I can't repeat stuff. I'm really terrible for it. So a lot of my songs are very essay-like, which is very much reflected in my current taste in music, but I suppose I'll come to that along the timeline. But yeah, everyone I was doing, and I was learning to make concepts and make them flow between songs and kind of do continuous stories, like extended metaphors through, and link songs together, which is something I still really, really love doing. With Casey, a lot of our songs, they're very similar ideas expressed, or various sentences and metaphors that have been twisted to kind of reflect each other over the course of, I mean, months and months apart in songs, which is great. It's something I love doing. And fans definitely kind of interact with that sort of thing as well. They pick up on it, which is, I love, absolutely love. But when Save the Last finished, I must have been 18, I guess, when we did kind of our final shows, because we all went to university and we all kind of split up, and it was the standard thing. We didn't want to do it with anyone else. We didn't want to get replacement members. It was our band, and it was our thing. It was our outlet together. And then I decided to step away from it, and I formed another band straight away. But when I felt by that point in my life I didn't really have anything meaningful to say, which was the kind of the junction that I was coming to. I could write forever and ever, and I used to write huge songs about the sea and about God and Christianity. I'm completely an atheist, but I find it a very fascinating topic. And just trying to combine different bits and pieces from different stories I've read along the years, and vampires and stuff, which is, I would never do now, but I never felt that I had any real life experience to portray myself as. The things I was writing about, they weren't me. So I was just like, I have nothing to say. And I've always been very much of the opinion that I would never write a song, especially now more so than ever, I wouldn't write anything unless it had a meaning, a sentiment to myself. And in that way I'm very selfish. I don't write songs for other people, I write songs for my own personal reasons. I mean, if I've got something to express, if I have a very complicated emotional problem, or a very set pattern of thinking that I need to kind of put down on paper, I'll do it with a song. And then that's for me. I mean, if other people can relate to it, that's incredible. And I'm so humbled by the fact that people take time out of their days to read things that I write. It's insane to think that, because I do that for other people, and my favorite authors and my favorite lyricists. I will sit there and I won't even listen to the music. I'll just sit there and I will read through things they've written because I love it so much. But yeah, I mean, like I said, at 18, 19, I had nothing to say and I was just starting university, but a friend approached me and said, do you want to start a band? And I was like, yeah, I do, but I want to learn guitar. And he was like, oh, that's fine, I've been playing guitar for a couple of years, I'll teach you. Fantastic. So kind of maybe 18 months went by and we were writing songs and stuff together, but it was more just him writing things and me mimicking them, because I had no creative motivation or creative understanding of myself. I couldn't, even to this day, I'm not a good guitarist by any stretch of the imagination, but I just had no creative context to put it in because I was so used to writing things down, and then if you give me a fretboard with 24 notes on it or 6 strings or whatever, I just no way to translate an emotion into that. But I stuck with it for kind of 5 years, I think it was. And we got a record deal. We were lucky enough to be signed, and we toured all over Europe. We toured Japan, and it was an incredible experience. It definitely was. But then in the background of that, at the same time, I had a lot of emotional problems going on with family and relationships and other bits and pieces. And without a conscious effort to kind of collate that information, I was gathering the muse and the inspiration that I was missing at 18 when I decided to call it a day. And then it got to a point where I just wasn't enjoying the music that my old band were making anymore, and I kind of, because that was always the thing for me. I mean, it sounds weird, but I'm not a huge fan of touring. I'm a huge fan of playing shows and meeting people and discussing what we do and how they feel about what we do. It's fantastic, and the opportunity to do it is something I would never be able to give sufficient thanks for to anybody. But it got to a point where I didn't even enjoy that anymore, because no one's ever going to come up to me and go, that guitar riff is so emotional, how do you think about writing that? Because it was just number crunching. It was just that note goes to this note, and then that sounds cool, and we'll just do this, and it didn't mean anything to me, it just sounded cool. So yeah, I decided to call it a day with initially decided to call it a day with music altogether, to be honest. When I emailed the label to say that I was leaving, when I kind of messaged the band and told them about it, I said, that's it, that's me out. I mean, I've got an adult job. I'm kind of happy to just call it quits. And then maybe a month later, Liam, who's now in Casey, kind of sent me a text and said, because his band had just broken up, he was doing other things, and he said, hey, I've got some songs written, do you want to just come down and listen to them and just see where it goes? And I was like, I do really miss writing and having something to say, because the whole time I was with my old band, to start with, I would disagree quite a lot with the lyrics that the vocalist would write, just because, like I said, they didn't really, especially to me, I had no context to relate to them at all. I couldn't read something he'd written and think, oh my god, I feel the passion in this, I know exactly what you're talking about. And to me, it just seemed really generic. And what I would do, I would write an alternate set of lyrics to the same song and offer them to start with and say, hey, you should, what about this? How about if you write about this? And we never really agreed on much, which is fine, and that was his domain, and I would never force them upon it. I would never encroach on somebody else's space and say, you have to write about this because it's important to me. Because at the same time, he might have read it and think, well, this isn't important to me. It's a very, very individual thing. And then, Liam said, I've got these couple of songs written, come down. We went to our friend's studio and he showed me them and said, would you be interested in just doing a studio band? Just me and you, we'll program everything else. We don't need a drummer, we don't need a bassist, we'll just do everything between ourselves and just kind of as something to do in our spare time. And I was like, yeah, that'd be fine. So we started writing a couple of songs, and then maybe 2-3 songs in, we were both like, this feels really good. Let's take it to a practice room. Even if it's just a jam band, even if we just get together once a fortnight with a couple of guys we know and we can get along with, and we'll just play the songs, and and we'll write some new songs, and then we'll, just kind of get, just as an outlet, just as something to express yourself, and there's a space to do it in. I said, yeah, that sounds great, let's do that. And then we kind of very carefully selected the other members that we wanted in the band, either for creative reasons or for personal reasons, like people we knew that we get on with. We'd met all of the other members previously through other projects and stuff. I wouldn't say we were, me and Liam have been best friends for years and years, like I said, since we were like kind of 13. But Toby, Scott and Max, we'd met on several occasions and we were all very well acquainted. We knew each other, we would say hi, we were very civil. But I would never say that they were my best friends. I would never, like, if I was going on a night out, I'd never be like, oh, I'm going to message those guys and see if they want to come too. We just weren't that close. But I knew that they'd all been very influential creatively in previous projects. I knew they were very good writers and they had a very good input on what they were doing, a very positive input. So we kind of approached them and said, we're starting something new. Do you want to help us out with it? Do you want to kind of come to a practice room? We're just going to jam and see how it feels. And that's how we did it. We just me and Liam recorded some tracks and kind of just sent them out to the guys and said, this is the kind of stuff we're playing. To begin with, it was very, very, maybe like stick to your guns kind of influenced. It wasn't necessarily what Casey are about now, or the kind of the sort of music that we make at the moment, but it's still very aggressive, still kind of melodic hardcore, I guess, but it wasn't anything to do with what we're doing now. But they were into it in any respect. They all said, this is great, yeah, we'll come and jam. And again, we took it into the practice room, we started playing the songs. We were all kind of, at the end of the first practice, I drove Max home. It was quite a long drive, and like I said, we weren't super well acquainted, but I was driving him home and I said, I think I had Touche Amore on the radio. And he said, I love this band. And I was like, no way. I thought you were into because he loves like Underoath and stuff as well. And I thought you just kind of stuck to that. And his old band, again, were very much on that end of the kind of melodic spectrum. They weren't emotional in any real sense, or kind of emotional in the same sonic sense, at least. Lyrically, his old band were great, but their genre, their sound wasn't anything that I would associate with kind of Touche Amore, La Dispute, and Parents Become Teeth, or anything along that lines. And he's like, no, this is like kind of the music I listen to, and we found like kind of 7 or 8 bands that we both adored. And we were like, maybe we should start writing some stuff like that. Maybe we should see where this goes. But the general feeling was we wanted to do something with it. We kind of felt we gelled really well. We all got on really well, and we were just like, let's see where it goes. Let's maybe just write some songs and book a show or something. And that was the origin of Casey. We were called Well Wisher for a while. But yeah, and then since then, it's kind of just progressed very rapidly to the point we're at now. And every step along the way, it just offers new opportunities, and people have believed in us in very quick succession. It snowballed very quickly. But like I said, I'm a very selfish person, so in terms of artistry at least, so to have other people approach me and say, what you're doing is great, I love it, I want to be a part of it, to me that's bizarre. Absolutely bizarre to have something that I think, this is just an outlet for myself, this is something I need to say, but you like it so much that you want to help me say it to a lot of people, and you want to take me far away from home to say it to people, and you want to kind of help me out with food, you want to help me out by paying for it kind of thing, or at least making sure that I'm not impoverished by the message that I'm trying to portray. It's absolutely fucking crazy to think that there are people out there that will support in that way. But it's helped so much, so much with the issues that I was having. We have an album that's coming out in a couple of months, and I think I tallied up the lyric count as something like 3,000 words over 11 songs, which for a lot of bands is insane, but as I said near the start of the video, the kind of bands I was listening to at the time when I was writing it, people like La Dispute and Me Without You, and earlier Parents Become Teeth, where it's such an enriching story that they portray. And that's what I wanted to be. I didn't necessarily want to say the same things they were saying or say it in the same way, but I always wanted to make sure that I was telling a story with what I was doing. I hope I've managed to do it, but it's been therapeutic beyond any medical measure. beyond anything that I would ever be able to access through a health service. And the people that we meet that come up and give similar feedback and say, we've listened to the things you're saying and it means the same to us that it does to you, it kind of pins a thread between people like nothing else that I've ever encountered. I mean, I don't have any real experience in a lot of fields that's maybe how people feel about dance, or maybe how people feel about film or other things, but from my experience of it, for somebody to come up to you and say, I know how you feel, is such an enriching experience, and such a powerful experience, and for people to do it, and it transcends a language barrier. If I go to a country where they don't even speak the same language as me, and they can still say, I can still feel what you're trying to say, it's outrageous. But I'm going to wrap this up, because I've been talking for a very long time. But thank you very much for listening, if you have made it this far. And make sure you check out the other videos on the channel.